We're nearing the end of 2023. We're going to talk about the goods and bads of wrestling and some other things that's happening along WWE and AEW. But before we get into it, timekeeper, ring that bell.
Welcome to the And Still a Wrestling Podcast, your weekly podcast covering the latest in the world of professional wrestling.
Welcome back into And Still a Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan, and we've got Kevin and Drew here with us, as we always do, to talk some more wrestling. Like I said before, we're going to talk about some year-end review, give you some of our thoughts on some of the good and bad of wrestling in 2023, and look at some of the hot topics from AEW news and WWE news. Fellas, welcome in. And I appreciate you being a part of the show again. And one thing I wanted to lead with, something that has been kind of some good news out of WWE. Well, first of all, the best news out of WWE is that yours truly was shown on the Tribute to the Troops edition of SmackDown this past Friday. So in case anybody wants to see me, 17 years ago version me, I was in a clip of the Tribute to the Troops from 2007, giving John Cena some daps and a pat on the back.
Yes, congratulations on that. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
I got there. Let me tell you the story real quick. Do you mind?
No, absolutely.
Sure,
Go ahead.
So when I was in the Army, and my roommate there with me, or battle buddy was what we call it in the Army, we both had the same birthday, by the way, January 4th, and which was very weird. We were roomies and we had the same birthday, but so we ended up we were both going to go on what we call R&R, rest and relaxation, but it was in country R&R. So there was an out of country R&R where you'd go for 2 weeks to home to the United States, but then there was an in country R&R where you would go for 3 days to Qatar, and you would ride camels and drink some beers and jet skis and all that kind of stuff. Then you'd come back. Well, my buddy and I, Hudson, we were like, well, we don't really want to do that, but we know that WWE is coming to Baghdad in a month from now. So why don't we beg our commander if he'll let us do it? And the commander was like, so you guys would rather watch wrestling than go ride camels and jet skis and drink beer in Qatar? And we both said, yeah, we'd rather do that. So we get there, a month or so passes. We fly out on a Black Hawk, go to Baghdad, because we weren't in Baghdad at the time. Get there, get in a Humvee. As we're driving through Camp Liberty, the middle of the camp, rockets hit an intersection and blow up a truck, 2 trucks behind us.
Wow.
Through an intersection. So it was like, freaked us out. Obviously we're like, wow, that could have been us. So if you have the magazine, it's the magazine with John Cena and 2 pit bulls. I have like 6 copies of it. I have to give you guys one. It's got us in there, but it also has the rocket explosion in there as well. And we got there like 5 hours early, and we're right at the steps of the ring and just stood there and waited for everybody. Like, we watched them set up everything. We just waited there for 5 hours, never moved. And then
Nice.
The show hit, and got to see Undertaker, Vince McMahon, Tori Wilson, JBL as Santa Claus, Chris Masters, CM Punk was there, Sheldon Benjamin, and obviously John Cena. Edge was there as well. I think Randy Orton was there, and I want to say Umaga was there too, by the way.
Yeah,
But,
07 EB there.
I think it was a very good experience overall. They stayed late, signed autographs, talked to everybody for as long as they could. So it was a really cool experience for sure.
Do you still talk to your battle buddy?
Just on Facebook, I say hello and tag him on stuff every now and then.
Where is he? Where is he now?
You know what? I think he does some fiber optic stuff in the upstate, and so he's doing good. But Interesting note too about WWE and their R&R, if you will. Triple H is allowing the roster to have a break. They're no longer doing all their shows during the holiday season this end of the year. So you're not going to see as many live taping shows right now because they're all getting a break. And Randy Orton came out and said it's kind of a welcome change in the locker room.
AEW got the week off as well. Their tapings wrapped up Wednesday night at the end of Dynamite, and they've had the entire week off. I think it's just a way for them to give them a little bit of break around the holiday, which, it's positive. It's definitely positive.
I viewed it immediately as like, well, Triple H bringing the WWE into 2023. Actually, that's the perks of having an actual former professional wrestler running the running the show and running the company right now. Is he knows what is best for the guy that's on the road all the time. He knows how hard and how stressful that life is, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I think we probably need to have time off during the holidays. And, he's putting the time off right around, the Christmas, around the week around Christmas and whatnot. And it's like, I can only wonder what house shows do in that particular time. Cause I'm always with Christmas parties and whatnot and shopping and all this stuff. Like, I'm never thinking about catching a house show for WWE.
It's interesting you say that, but if you look historically, one of the biggest gates for Crockett historically was the Christmas Day show that they would run somewhere down here in Atlanta or Texas or the Carolinas. And it would be on Christmas Day, and it would be late in the day. And that was some of the biggest gates in history. So it's kind of interesting because, listen, after you open up the presents and you have whatever you're going to eat, what do you do for the rest of the day? You watch football or you go watch pro wrestling? So historically, that was interesting. And
was this also during the time that, it's like Jim Crockett wasn't on television as much, or?
I don't know exactly when that timeline was, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't War Games? If I'm not mistaken, War Games was a Christmas Day event at one point. I could be wrong on that, but it was definitely a Crockett event many years running. I remember seeing an interview with one of the Crockett saying that was their biggest gate in history, was running on Christmas Day. So speaking of historic, Morgan, what happened years ago on this day?
Yeah, so on this day in wrestling history, we'll go ahead and knock it out because we got our 2023 year in review to look at. But interesting note here. This is why I love doing this, because it teaches me more about wrestling than it teaches you guys. Maybe it's more of a aha for you guys already knowing it. But 1972, Ric Flair makes his professional wrestling debut in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. And he wrestles George Gadaski in a time limit draw. So, welcome to wrestling, Ric Flair.
He was 240 pounds at that time. He looked nothing like he did when he hit his stride in his career.
Wow, interesting. 1973, Bruno Sammartino beat Stan Stasiak at Madison Square Garden. Which you guys have told me, about the legend of him at Madison Square Garden. To win his second WWF, I think I said that right, WWF championship. He became the first man to win the belt more than once.
And Drew, the Stan Stasiak, the dad, produced what sibling, what child?
Sean Stasiak.
Yes.
Or he's also periodically known as Meat.
Also the most...
Meat?
Wasn't he super paranoid? Didn't that get him fired? He thought everything was a conspiracy, right?
The Planet Stasiak character.
Yes.
Oh God. And don't forget the idea. This is always weirded me out. It's like they tried to make him I guess kind of a Mr. Perfect, or they in WCW they gave him Mr. Perfect theme music. Also thought he could be some sort of cross between that and Rick Rude. They called him the Mecca Manhood or something like that. But it's like, if you're asking me to make sense of anything I just said, I can't, because, like I said, it's WCW in 99, 2000. Nothing makes sense.
Weren't you on that booking committee?
Yes. Yes, championship committee.
Yes. Morgan, what else happened?
Looking through here, you've got Terry Funk beat Jack Briscoe in Miami, Florida to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship 1975. With the win, the Funk brothers Terry and Dory became the first and today only pair of brothers to both hold this championship.
Jack Briscoe, isn't he the one that owns the body shop? Because the other brother, Jerry Briscoe, stayed as the henchman for McMahon. So one of the brothers went on to have a very famous body shop, car repair in Florida. The other stayed on as a confidant to Vince McMahon for many years.
Year 2000, WWE held their Armageddon pay-per-view. It was the first and only six-man Hell in a Cell matchup for the WWF Championship. Kurt Angle successfully defended the title against Stone Cold, Rikishi, The Rock, The Undertaker, and Triple H. Most famous for The Undertaker's choke slamming Rikishi from the top of the cell into a quote unquote heavily padded flatbed truck.
Yeah, it was. That's the thing. It was a great visual, but yes, it was a very padded, landing, and rightfully so.
More
because
padded than the Chris Jericho one in AEW, where he basically was like on 16 miles of boxes.
Yeah,
Come on, he still messed his elbow up on that though.
Did he
Go
really?
figure. Yeah, he did.
Oh man, I remember seeing that. My I think my father-in-law or my mother-in-law was just walking by as I was watching that spot, and she was like, "How do you like this?" And I'm like, "You're just looking at that one bad spot, okay?"
You're referring to the Jericho one, right?
Yeah, I couldn't defend that one.
Okay, that one I defend just with this, like, cameraman was not where he should have been.
Yeah.
Like, if
Blame
the cameraman.
Yeah, it was definitely a production issue.
The funny thing is like, again, bringing up WCW, they're the ones that kind of originated that whole thing. Because remember, like, they threw Canyon from like a giant, like they made a pyramid like cage match, and I don't remember what it's called, but they threw Canyon from the top of that into the ramp and had the ramp completely staged where he crushes through.
I have two words for that. Who better?
Yeah. It's like, I could give you a whole nother rant on that one about Canyon being one of the grossly overrated talents we ever had. The man was really good at what he did, and I think we took it all for granted.
So it's funny, last week I gave a shout out to Jim Frisese, and I had told you guys he was writing for PWI online for a number of years. And the only person that I am aware of that took issue with what he wrote was Chris Canyon. And Chris Canyon contacted Jim Frisese and gave him a retort for the story he had written about him. Maybe sometime we'll have Jim Frisese on to talk about that story, but I digress. Sure. What else happened?
2006 TNA Turning Point took place at the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. No titles changed hands on the night. Abyss retained the TNA World Heavyweight Championship in a triple threat against Sting and Christian Cage. The main event saw Samoa Joe defeat Kurt Angle by submission.
Or AEW's current lineup.
2007, WWE presented special 15th anniversary edition of Raw in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Famous names like Steve Austin, Eric Bischoff made cameos. Only one title changed hands on the night, saw Cody Rhodes and Hardcore Holly defeat Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch to win the WWE Tag Team Championship. In other notable matches, Evolution reformed to face Edge, Randy Orton, and Umaga. Evolution.
Okay, I remember this show.
Ted DiBiase was there.
Yeah, there's been good Raw reunion shows and bad Raw reunion shows, and that one's the 15-year anniversary was somewhere in the middle. The Raw 20th, if I remember right, was an absolute fantastic show. And I do specifically remember the Raw 10-year anniversary, which I want to say was like in 2002 or 2003 or something like that, was just flat out garbage.
Well, last one on the list here is 2012. This one's a Japanese one for you. Wrestling icon Kenta Kobashi announced he would retire in 2013. Did he actually ever retire?
No.
Nobody ever does.
No, in fact, I think he was just recently wrestling this year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I was going to look at. He's like, so how legit is that, Kev? Because it's like a lot of wrestlers say they're going to call it quits.
Well, he apparently said he was going to call it quits 10 years ago. And if he's still around, I wouldn't be surprised in the wrestling business, that's for sure.
So should we be booking our tickets to go see Sting's last match? Or is that dude going to find another way to...
Odds are probably not. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I tend to think Sting seems to me like that guy that when he says he's calling it good here, he means it.
You think so? This is it, huh?
Yeah, Sting doesn't seem to me like he has to chase the high anymore.
I mean, let's face it, the guy's 65 years old. What else is he going to do? He's had a really nice undefeated streak. He's had 24-0 since he came to AEW. I really think they're going to put him over on top. So why would he ever come back?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is his way to bow out, because back in, 2016, when the WWE, it's like, good and well, that's not how he wanted to go out. I think this is him allowing him to go out on his own terms. I kind of agree. I think this really will be it for him.
Speaking of things coming to an end, gentlemen, I thought it would be interesting if we talked about 2023 professional wrestling as a whole and how it was positive and negative this year. What I thought we could each do was choose 2 positives, 2 negatives, and if you have an honorable mention, by all means. And we can kind of just roundtable and riff on each other's thoughts of what was positive and what was negative. How does that sound to you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Morgan, you in?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right.
I don't know how good my list is going to be, but I'll be here.
That's all right. So I will start off with my first positive. I think one of the biggest assets to the professional wrestling world in 2023 is Daniel Bryan.
It's like, are you referring to it as his wrestling or in general of everything that he brings to the table?
Everything that he brings to the table. We saw some of the best matches of the year featuring him. He had arguably the best death match of all time. He beat Kazuchika Okada. He beat Will Ospreay. He had a phenomenal Anarchy in the Arena. In general, I think he's been the MVP of AEW, also knowing what he does behind the scenes. We know that he helps put matches together. We know that he was on the committee for disciplinary action against CM Punk.
Oh God, that shouldn't count in this.
And even though he's been injured, he's had some amazing matches. Let me just quickly go down the list of matches that he's had. And this is again starting 2023. And remember, he was injured for part of the year, a good chunk of the year actually. So he beat Konosuke Takeshita back in January. He beat Brian Cage back in January. He beat Rush in February. He did lose to MJF in the Iron Man match, but that's arguably, possibly, candidate for best match of the year. He was victorious in Anarchy in the Arena. He beat Kazuchika Okada in June. He beat Ricky Starks in that amazing strap match in September.
That was good.
Yes. He beat Ricky Starks in the Texas Death Match. If you guys remember, he passed out when the belt was across his mouth. And he has been an MVP of this Continental Classic, and I don't think that's deniable. What do you guys think?
You forgot his match with Zack Sabre Jr. That was top notch.
It was snug. Yeah.
So unique and so different, and I definitely think that's. I don't know if it's a match of the year, but it's a match that needs to be highlighted for 2023 because it is, like I said, it was a great match and it felt so different from everything else we normally get.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, Morgan had no idea who he was, and at the end of that match, he was a Zack Sabre Jr. fan.
Yeah, I like that match overall. I mean, that was back in 1st of October, Wrestle Dream. And yeah, I had no idea, ZSJ there. I had no idea. And both of those guys, I mean, obviously Bryan Danielson, had my respect, but Zack Sabre Jr. been around for a while, and I just didn't never, as a casual who I am, I'd never really known anything about him. And I do feel like that that was one of his best matches this year. I think back to Danielson versus Ricky Starks. I thought that was a good one. And then the Takeshna, I think he had more than one that were, to me, were good.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard pressed to find someone with as many standout matches as he had this year. And of those matches, he's won 75, 80% of them. So I think AEW had a fantastic year, due in part to Daniel Bryan.
I agree.
Or Bryan Danielson.
Oh, Bryan Danielson, yes. Whatever you call him these days.
Even
the American Dragon. The American
Even he
Dragon.
knows that's catchy. Oh, yeah, throw that in there too with the whole Bryan Danielson thing. Well, it's like we got the final countdown entrance back twice actually this year. But I mean that Ring of Honor entrance that he does was and also got to point out real quick too, is like you could see the genuine joy on his face when the crowd knew what to do for that theme. You know, like I guarantee when he came out the door, he was at first like, I hope everybody remembers this. And by the time that they get to the part where they scream, it's the final count, then like you could see the grin on his face, like, yeah, they do get it.
And I say that he is by far the outstanding addition to AEW. There is one person that I'm omitting, and that is Nick Wayne's mom. I mean, obviously, she's the best thing that's happened to AEW this year. Kevin, shout out to Nick Wayne's mom.
I know that you like to really like her right now, but that was an awful spot what she did with the belt.
She predicted exactly what she was going to do. Yes, I will say that her acting skills are not all that great, but her bedroom skills are top notch.
I thought that spot was just guaranteeing you're going to get more of Nick Wayne's mom. Who knows? You might get enough of Nick Wayne's mom that you might actually start calling her by her actual first name.
Yeah, no, I like Nick Wayne's mom. It's
what is her actual first name?
It's less of a chance to be sued by using her could be Nick Wayne's mom instead of her actual. That's right, instead of her actual name. Much less chance of being sued. But I digress. Spence, what is your overall positive for professional wrestling this year?
Are we just talking about a wrestler in general or just things in wrestling?
Anything that's happened in professional wrestling in 2023.
Okay, off the top of my head, one of the first things that comes to my mind, just throwing this out here is, as a positive, WWE merging with UFC to create, TKO, the company. And strangely, it is turned into being quite a success. Like the WWE right now is probably in better shape than it's been in several years, especially like creatively. I know this sounds like it should be a negative, but it's actually a positive of seeing Vince McMahon kind of being shoved out of the way for, Triple H being given the ball and, taking control of the company. And like I said, WWE's been really healthy the last year or so.
Okay. I want to
go ahead.
I want to pull that apart a little bit. And
sure.
I'm not arguing the fact that it's a positive for them. But besides Vince not being in power, what has changed?
Triple H has now got zero interference as far as creativity and control goes now.
What have we seen to prove that? Like what has changed? What has massively changed?
It's like we're doing a much better job with long-term storytelling because Vince McMahon is not there to throw out the scripts at the 11th hour and say 30 minutes before the show, hell, I'll just write the whole thing myself.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me Dragon Lee against Dominic that was put together last week, and they put had Dominic drop the strap. So tell me more about this long-term storytelling, please.
There's always some short-term storytelling. But wait, Dominic dropped the strap? When?
He did last night. NXT.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that probably was part of the deal then. They've done it's like Judgment Day has been a great example of that. They are definitely trying to tell us a story of, trying to put these guys over and they're not getting put on the shelf. WWE's taken to new ideas. Like it's like they do a lot of like Easter eggs and behind the, and like little hints and stuff that they were never really good at in the last couple of years. A lot of the smaller guys are now getting over. And here's one thing I can show you that they've done better in the last year that they've really struggled with over the years and stuff like that is WWE has a lot of baby faces over. right now. Cody Rhodes is over with that crowd. Jey Uso's over with that crowd. LA Knight's over with that crowd. Sami Zayn's over. Kevin Owens is over. It's always been very difficult for WWE to get more than like one or two baby faces really over with the crowd.
Yes, and I've heard that as a detriment in the fact that they have too many uber baby faces that aren't battling enough heels.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's definitely not a balance, but I mean, it's like if you've been watching wrestling as long as I have, you know, it is so much easier to get heels over than it is baby faces are over.
So since we're talking about heels and faces and what have you, this is something I wanted to bring up 2 weeks ago and I totally spaced it, but now I'm remembering. How do you guys feel about CM Punk being brought in and being put right to the top of the card and potentially superseding what we get for WrestleMania match in regards to Cody Rhodes not facing the head of the table and it being CM Punk? What do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that he came in and pushed everybody else down a notch?
I literally think that's the story they want to tell, is that the stars of the WWE, you know, although Punk says, yes, they're welcoming and stuff, that there are certain stars, particularly Seth Rollins, who are like, hey, I don't like this guy showing up and taking the spotlight immediately, being thrust into the, you know, top of the, you know, card when he doesn't deserve it.
So the program with Seth is he's going to run through Seth like toilet paper. How do you feel about that?
No, I think the Seth Rollins CM Punk thing is probably your night one main event of WrestleMania.
I'm hearing different things.
Unless, of course, yeah, God, do we have to cover like the idea of CM Punk versus Stone Cold Steve Austin?
No. I haven't heard anything more of that, but I had heard about him being put in the program with the head of the table and beating Roman Reigns for the strap. That was Cody's spot to have.
Yeah.
Morgan, the look in your face. It's like what was it? The Miz little kid reaction, like remember the little kid, the Miz face?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me, and I don't want to turn this into a CM Punk bashing session, but Drew, to your point, if you think that Endeavor being aligned with WWE is a good thing, then great. I can't say the house has changed. I do get Wrestle Ticks every day, and they show that the last time we were here, this time we're there, their ticket sales are equal to or slightly less than the last time in some of these venues. So I can't say that they're building their base. So I'm not sure that I've seen any net gains from this yet, but you know what? Let's look at the stock in 6 months and see where it's at.
I mean, to the defense too, they also just cut a $1 billion something deal to get SmackDown off of Fox to USA. So that's not as sweet as that Slim Jim deal. Come on now. Yeah, the Slim Jim deal actually kind of is a good deal for them. Whether it's like, hey man, whether we like it or not, Slim Jim's always been a big time money bringer for professional wrestling. It was a moneymaker for the WWE. It turned out to be a big sponsor for WCW back in the day, and now it's back in the WWE, making them money. I guess. Is LA Knight still associated with them? Or I don't know. I don't think they do either, because you know what the problem is even though LA Knight is catchy and he's doing great right now, you're never going to find a better spokesperson than Randy Savage was. So, I don't watch the product, but what is LA Knight doing right now? I know he got married. Is he off TV? Has he been on TV since Saudi? Yeah, he's been on TV since Saudi, but I hate to say this, but he's kind of like floating in limbo right now. Usually he's there to help somebody. Like if Kevin Owens needs a hand or something like that with what's going on, he's still feuding with the Bloodline. They just can't get him, near Roman Reigns. But to his defense on that one, it's kind of hard to get near Roman Reigns when I'm pretty sure Roman won't be back on WWE programming until January. Right. All right, so that was your positive WWE endeavor. I don't dislike it, but I definitely have some retort to that. Morgan, what do you got?
Well, for me, as I'm thinking back through 2023, can I give one for each promotion?
Sure. Do whatever you'd like, man.
So, one for WWE is, I would say, something that sparked interest and that really, I have more than one for WWE, but the Bloodline story for 2023 really did spark my interest in what was going on over there. I didn't want to. I didn't have any interest to actually watch, most of their matches, most of their productions this year until late in the year. But so I've watched the past couple of weeks, but really the Bloodline stuff at least got me watching on social media the highlights and laughing hysterically at how Sami Zayn was doing certain things, and just like the different clips that there were available that again were just hilarious.
He got you feeling oozy? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Which, by the way, Jey Uso
Yes.
has reached an agreement. He will be able to say yeet again.
Mm.
Yep. So he reached an agreement with the guy from Virginia on the trademark there. So he will be able to be yeeting all over your TV.
As soon as I saw who owned the trademark, and it was some like low indie wrestler and stuff like that, I was like, this is WWE, man. Throw as much money at this guy as he needs to get
him buy his house. Yeah, let him get a new car.
It's like, they had to look at it like, we got the money to pay this guy off, don't we? It's like, how much is Yeet going to cost you? Because we've got it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think it's a good move for WWE there. But yeah, so for WWE, sorry about that. So for WWE, I think that, the Bloodline story was good. For AEW, I would say that the pay-per-views, when you rank their pay-per-views for, I guess, the year, the season, whatever, their 10 best in history since starting, I would say you could probably say 4 of them from this year alone are in the top 10. I think they did really well with their pay-per-view booking and made a handful of just, pay-per-views that you would go watch again. Unforgettable ones, good matchups, ones that you would watch again and still be entertained today.
I got to agree with Morgan on this one. It's like, I know Kev thinks I'm the WWE mark or whatnot, but that is absolutely correct in saying that, like, AEW does better pay-per-view shows than WWE right now. It's like AEW is super good at making these events can't miss prospects.
So let me just give you an example, because I know Kevin's going to want like specifics with this. The Chicago All Out, where Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy fought for the championship. I thought that was good. I don't know if I can't remember if Orange Cassidy won and got over on the next regular show or what. But remember, this year was the year that kind of built Orange Cassidy from a joke sideshow type goofball to a legit wrestler. And he did so in his matchup with Moxley. And one of those was that All Out this year. So that's one that I'm thinking of. Another one that I was thinking of was it was Forbidden Door this year with Bryan Danielson and Okada fighting. I thought that was a good one. Ospreay and Omega. Ospreay actually won. That one was really fun. I mean, Omega had just beat him like a week or two or earlier in Japan, and then they come back and Ospreay gets him in Toronto of all places. So I thought it was another good booking there.
I'll give you an example too that I think Kevin would agree with me on. It's like All Out, and what was the last one? Full Gear. Yeah, were like 2 pay-per-views that we saw the card and we thought they're probably missable, and they turned out to be 2 of the best pay-per-view shows they put on.
Oh, and by the way, they had All In London, so
yeah,
like, yeah.
So it's interesting that you guys bring this up, because my second positive for the year was the quality of matches that we're getting on free TV.
That is true. Yeah, free TV for AEW, and a lot of old school wrestlers and promoters would be against that, though.
Yes. I mean, let's think about this. So obviously the most recent one we just saw was Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. Free TV. Of course, we got a schmoz finish, but we did get a clean finish, even though it was a schmoz.
Clean, I don't know, you know. Let me trip over
you know,
my own feet.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, remember the payoff with the whole best of 6 between the Death Triangle and the Elite? And how
That
much
was
we
good.
friggin' loved that series?
Yes, that was good.
That was this year, wasn't it?
They paid that off. Yep, that was excellent. There's been so many different matches on TV that have been given away for free that have just been fantastic. I mean, Darby Allin, Samoa Joe, the no holds barred match, that was fantastic. We got Moxley and Kenny Omega in the steel cage. Again, free TV. I'm trying to think of some of the other amazing matches that we've seen.
I'll even I'll throw WWE a little into this as well. Like WWE's even managed to pull off a few of these. Like that Intercontinental title match between Chad Gable and Gunther was a pay-per-view quality, match with, for at least a 4-star for them. And it's like, the match between Edge and Sheamus, which was Edge's send-off, was a fantastic match. They can pull them out of them once in a while. But you're right. I will give credit where credit's due. AEW has a better track record with this. It's like Orange Cassidy's matches, again, turned out to be a lot of pay-per-view quality. Wait, I'm trying to remember, the one with him and Mox was not on TV, right? The Ray Phoenix with Mox was on TV, was up there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Texas Death match between Starks and Danielson, which I mentioned prior. Adam Cole versus MJF for the world title elimination match. That happened in mid-June. That was on free TV.
Ricky Starks and MJF was on free TV, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, we saw Moxley and Hangman on free TV back in February. We saw the Escalera de la Muerte, which was the match 7 of the best of 8 between Death Triangle and the Elite. That was an incredible match. Remember all those high spots with the ladders?
Yep.
We saw Jericho and Tomohiro Ishii, which was just a smash mouth match. So again, just giving a ton of good quality TV matches away. And Morgan, I know you've talked about this in the past. You don't like guys just fighting for the sake of fighting. But if that's going to happen, I want solid matches. I don't want Big John Studd versus Andrew Spence. I want Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega on free TV. That's what.
Why are you gonna make me fight a dead guy?
You have a chance of winning.
I do now. I don't know, man. Big John Studd was a big dude. I don't know how I fare against the reanimated corpse of Big John Studd.
As long as he doesn't have a torn labia, we're fine.
It's like, I don't even care if he does. I don't think that dude's selling anything.
Goodness.
And
so
not
that
to
was
mention, we also had Julia Hart, Chris Statlander, and Sky Blue on AEW free TV as well.
We know you like that. So those are my 2 positives for 2023. Now I've got about 6 or 7 in total, and I will share with you. And I know that we are only going to choose 2, but I think I think the number one statement that AEW made this year was All In at Wembley. There's nothing that tops that. That's the biggest story of the year. A company 4 years old selling 81,000 tickets. I think the content of the Classic has been way better than any of us thought it was going to be. I have been entertained by MJF, but to the point of overload. I think Swerve is a rising star. I thank whomever was responsible for creating Forbidden Door. Those are my ups for this year. And again, I know we're only going to talk to 2 of them, but those are all of my ups. And of those, my top 2 were Danielson's matches and the TV matches in general this year. That said, Spence, what's your second up?
You know what? I'll take a easy, quick one for a second one because it popped in my head whenever we were talking about this idea originally. And it's like, let's talk about a positive for AEW, the rise of timeless Tony Storm. It's like Tony Storm's, started this year off as a member of the Outcast, and it was just there, just a partner with Saraya, and Ruby Riott, and it's like she was just part of the equation. I mean, she was getting the AEW World Championship, but or the women's title, but that was really only because they couldn't put it on Sriracha it's like, I'm gonna call her by every possible name I could think of. Just throwing that out here.
Psoriasis.
Psoriasis, yeah. But then she goes a little nuts after losing the title to Shida, and now it's like it is week by week has evolved into what is now probably one of the best characters in professional wrestling right now. The fact that she went 100% into this character, coming up with like new ways to word things, the fact that everything she does is in black and white, just how she plays it, how she plays off people, how she plays off RJ City makes, for great entertainment and television. Coming out to the ring and bringing a script and explaining to her opponent how this wrestling match should be scripted is great. And then, and her complaining, like when they do something that they're not supposed to do is they went off script.
Spence, watch out for the shoe. I will not argue anything that you just said, but I will give you this retort, as she had a great match.
Yeah, I would say the one with Shida that she did to win the AEW World Title was a very good match.
Okay, I would disagree with that, but okay. Her character development, head and shoulders. I think it's probably the best developed character in AEW for 2023. But I don't want to peek too far behind the curtain, but one of my downs is going to be women in general, but we'll save that.
And I will retort you back with the fact that it's like, has she put on 5-star matches? No, but she's entertaining as hell.
Yes.
And that puts butts in the seats.
I agree. Her character is excellent. They haven't had, in my opinion, they have not had a Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match in 2023 in the women's division.
I will say though, I do think a Britt Baker, it's like a lights out match with Timeless Tony Storm and with this character with that kind of hardcore, aspect of it is probably going to be really fun.
Morgan showing his boo-boo face because you didn't mention Sky Blue.
It's like, hey man, she's doing great too. It's like, she's actually, one of the highlights of this year as well. I mean, like she's shown a lot of improvement. She's gotten a lot more TV time. She's also made a character change up that is probably for the better.
So she also wrestled. That's the award she gets. She got the also wrestled award. Morgan, what do you think? What's your up? What's your other up?
My second up. Well, I'll do one for each. WWE. I was able to get back into some of they were able to capture me by bringing in CM Punk. I did not think they would be able to do it, and they did. The signing was huge for them, but also at the Survivor Series was such a big deal because I watched the entire event. I actually enjoyed the event. And I really admired the very end when I realized that they had a handful of guys that were all top level baby faces that could hold their own without each other. Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, the return of Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk.
Don't forget the return of R-Truth.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm forgetting one. So you had Cody Rhodes,
R-Truth.
In that match, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Randy Orton,
Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that's the other guy. So they had 5 in that match, and then they brought in CM Punk as their 6th. So they have 6 guys that are really big time ticket sales guys that draw in the casual fan like me to come back and watch it and see what's there. Now, the subsequent Monday and Friday nights haven't been that exciting, to be honest with you. But so I kind of got a reality check in that way as well, but I don't want to be too negative because what they did in a positive is bring me back to be interested on why they were doing what they were doing and how they were going to do it.
That's fair enough. So you're a lapsed fan that's returned to the WWE product, and a lot of it is for nostalgia reasons. You're seeing some of the guys that you remembered watching 10, 12, 14 years ago that are being pushed in programs, and you're interested in seeing that, right?
That's the initial, but then when I'm there, I see and hear the huge, and it may be fake, but I get this big pop from all of the baby faces that came out, and the fans all have chants for every one of their intros. And to me, being a very, in the moment, emotional type fan, that kind of stuff gets me. Like I like to cheer on my wrestler as their music hits, and I like to be able to chant along with them their saying or whatever. So,
What?
So
What?
that's what not necessarily that, but
Yes.
I hate that one actually, but for the most part, like those iconic entrances are fun.
Sure, I get it.
And
And
when
you know
you got
what?
a group of people doing it with you, it's fun.
I'm just happy that you're watching pro wrestling. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm happy that you're a fan again and you're enjoying what you're seeing. So good for you, man.
Thank you.
And
That's-
the tribute to the troops, like you it kind of is an emotional show for me, just because like it was a very stressful time in my life that I got to experience something that not a lot of people get to experience. And I even saw on a Twitter post where a guy was like, "Can you believe that these dudes went to a war zone and did this?" And because they haven't done it in years, they haven't been in Iraq or Afghanistan in years, and so I was like, there's a large amount of younger up and coming fans that are like, these dudes went to a war zone, and I'm like, yeah, and they did so every freaking year, and the top guys went, not the scrubs, like the top guys and girls.
I love that too. You reiterated that point at the beginning of the show too, where you're sitting there like, this is during a stressful time in my life, and it's like I immediately transitioned that to what you were talking about. It's like, hey, all y'all that have been to go to see a WWE show, have you ever had a rocket come out of the sky and hit the car two miles back from where you just were? It's like, because if you have, that's what it was like going to the tribute to the troops show.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty crazy event, but yeah, no, it brought me back to WWE in a little way, to where I'm, now Friday nights, I'm like, hey, you know what? I do want to watch this. And then I went back and I realized I forgot Monday night, so I went and watched that replay. But so then on the AEW side, I do feel like that they have done well with some of the characters, like you mentioned, especially on the female side of things. And Julia Hart was one that came to mind, and Toni Storm's one. But I would say more recently, I have been reinvigorated with the Continental Championship that's going on. Like, I respect, because I'm a college football fan, sports fan, whatever. I respect, a good, healthy tournament, not a tournament for the sake of doing a tournament, or a tournament because someone had to give up a belt because of an injury. I like a good, healthy tournament. Especially in the situation that AEW is in, where they're struggling to get TV time for all of their top guys. The roster is bloated, as we know. And, for the most part, we've gotten a ton of storylines that kind of fizzle out or seem to not really get started before they're ended. And this tournament kind of brings it back into what Kevin's always liked, which is the professional wrestling part of it. And, the wrestlers seem to be into it and taking it serious, and wanting to get their wins. And so as I'm going through, I'm looking at the bracket, looking at the group stage, and I'm curious, and I'm projecting and speculating, and I think that's good.
Hey,
Yeah,
I got
it's
one.
definitely...
I finally got what I wanted out of it too. You notice that? I've been begging for an upset in here, and this past Saturday, it's like Eddie Kingston finally gets a W against Claudio.
Yeah, and that's kind of a payback, isn't it? Didn't he lose to Claudio when they first had their initial match? So they're 1-1 now, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he took the Ring of Honor title off of Claudio, didn't he?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Eddie Kingston beat Claudio to win that Ring of Honor title. So this is
okay. So
Eddie Kingston getting another W.
Okay, so these two, so he's one up on Claudio in their series of 3. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, the Continental Classic has been very good. Like I said, it's easy TV. He's got 25 matches written for a 30-day period, and we talked about this. They're going to have to start putting matches on Dynamite, and sure enough, we saw one this week. So, yeah, it's been really good. So we've all covered our positives. Spence, did you have any other honorable mentions that you had written down?
It's like, I'm glad you brought up the Julia Hart thing. I was like, I would say, like, on the AEW side, the rise of Swerve Strickland has been an incredibly fun watch to see. It's like there's been characters that, like, I think are heavily positioned for 2024 that, thanks to this year, that I'm genuinely looking forward to. Like, I definitely feel like on the AEW side, Swerve Strickland is poised to be a major player in 2024. On the WWE end, I feel like LA Knight and Jey Uso are poised to be major players in what they've got planned for 2024. It's like, so just on that thing, it's like you say, the outlook for next year in professional wrestling looks really bright for both companies.
Do you think that they're going to go the whole African-American route like they did with Ron Simmons in WCW for Swerve being the first African-American AEW champion?
No, I don't, but but right now where we are with this company, he totally should be. It's like, I don't know when and where you get that title on him, but he's definitely needs to be in the main event picture at some point in 2024. If he's not, they're leaving money on the table.
Yep, I can't disagree with that. Morgan, any honorable mentions?
Ooh, honorable mention. I struggled to get the 2. I struggled to get 2, and I ended up having 2 for each promotion. Isn't that crazy? How things
It's okay.
go?
You can say Sky Blue, little buddy. Go ahead.
I don't really know still what they're doing. You say she's changing character, but she seems a lot very similar each week. She kind of teases going, bad or heel and then not, and then teases going to the House of Black and then not. I don't really know what they're doing with her, for sure yet. But I mean, I would say that, it does seem like the devil mask thing is getting some outside attention on social media, but I do worry that, it's kind of the slow burn is wearing off on people, but I do feel like it has sparked some interest as well. I don't know if it's going to be as popular of a reveal as maybe we once thought, but
yeah. Now am I supposed to believe it's James Storm?
No, that was social media bullshit.
No, that's just us. That's wrestling fans being dickheads.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you bring up the devil because I'm going to reveal the biggest devil in professional wrestling for 2023, and this is irrefutable, and that is Philip Jack, and you guys know his last name, Brooks, better known as CM Punk. He has been by far the biggest disappointment and homewrecker of 2023. Starting with the fallout of the scrum, all the drama that they created, then bringing him back, which was a bad move, only to have it go south again, cause a rift in your locker room, positive, negative, and then have it culminate at your biggest pay-per-view of the year, biggest pay-per-view of their history, having the fallout happen before they go live with Jack Perry in the back, and then, and I'm going to use air quotes or quote unquote, Tony Khan fearing for his life in a confrontation with one said CM Punk. He has created a wake of devastation everywhere he's gone, and it's now continuing in WWE. Work or shoot, it doesn't matter. We do know that Seth Rollins is not a fan. Who's the guy from the guy with the sword?
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre, not a fan. He has only been received well from what I've seen, and I don't watch a lot of it, in Chicago. His appearance last night at NXT made me want to spit at my TV. There was no fucking reason for him to be there. I don't think they're using him right off the bat, and everything he does is hollow. It's not. It's scripted. It's scripted. And you know what? In a safe zone, a scripted CM Punk is better than an unscripted CM Punk. What do you guys think?
Oh God! Like, first of all, I just want to critique. It's like there's a part of me that originally wanted to critique on the fact that Kevin's irrational hatred for CM Punk, but also on the fact is like that was honestly going to be my top thing, which is like what was the worst thing in wrestling this year? It's like CM Punk 2023. It's like from AEW to where WWE is like this has all just been a mess. Like his entire coming back from Brawl Out was an absolute mess for AEW. Nothing good came of it. And like I said, like it's not 100% his fault in AEW. There were clearly some, aspects where they're poking the bear, and it was stupid that they poked the bear. It's also equally as stupid that Punk gave them the reaction that they were absolutely looking for. And then, like I said, he sits it out. He finally shows back up in Survivor Series, and he's had a promo on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And I hate to say this, but they all kind of fell flat. This past week on SmackDown, where he actually made the reference to AEW and brawling backstage and stuff like that, and the crowd just didn't buy into it whatsoever. It's like he dropped the line, something along the lines of like, "It's 2023, you want to." It's like you can't have people just backstage punching people for no apparent reason, and the crowd was crickets for it.
Help me understand what the fascination is. Just a 10,000-foot overview. This is a guy who is 45 years old. He left the industry for 10 years. He got his ass handed to him in 2 fights in the UFC. He was 0-2, and they weren't even close fights. He got his ass kicked. He comes back, gets put into a program, gets pushed to the moon. The fans get behind him. Then he shits on the company he's working for in front of the boss. He's allowed to return, get put into a major storyline, and butt heads yet again to the point where he's fired. Goes back to a company that he was sued by, lost his best friend over, and they bury the hatchet, and he is appearing in extremely scripted promos, and the crowd is not behind. I think they should bury the shit out of him and have him job to everybody and kick him to the fucking curb and be done with CM Punk.
Yeah, I don't think that's good for business right now.
No, I think it would be, because that would make me watch. And I'm sure not watching now. If he started to job to the top people, I'd be like, I want to see this motherfucker lose.
I hear you, but you got to know, man, like CM Punk still has a very large and very loyal fan base.
Why?
As just
no, I don't know. Tell me why.
As a fan of professional wrestling, like I don't die hard for the guy, but I think that's what it is. They live for the promos, they live for the pipe bombs, and the dude can put on a good match.
He's mid to upper card. I'll give him that. But I haven't seen anything that's made me go, you know what? He might be one of the better of all time. He's certainly not. And I don't understand the aura that surrounds him and why people continue to want to see him. Morgan, help me here. What is it?
Well, I think that a lot of your current, late, I would say, well, actually probably before me. I don't know. I feel like that a lot of people who are in their 30s are CM Punk fanboys because of, or maybe even earlier than their 30s, maybe their late 20s. Maybe they missed the Rock days and the Stone Cold days, but they got the CM Punk day. I don't know. Wasn't he a little bit after that? Because I feel like, maybe they missed John Cena and then they got CM Punk. but CM Punk was still around when Triple H was popular. So
Right.
I don't know. I feel like that it's weird. Like people gravitated to him. See, like I gravitated to The Rock and to Degeneration X and Stone Cold, and then before that, like the NWO and Hulk Hogan. But I never gravitated to CM Punk because it was a time in my life where when he got popular, I wasn't watching. But there is a group of people where when he got popular, they were watching and they were learning, and maybe they don't have an allegiance to an earlier wrestler, and so that's why they have an allegiance to him, because he's their Cena or whatever. I don't know.
All right,
Morgan.
So let's fantasy book here. We have 4 months to WrestleMania. He's done nothing since he came back to the WWE, yet we know he's going to be in a program with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, he's going to take over what you said. He's going to take over the spot of Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is going to play company man.
Is that believable? Is a match between CM Punk and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania believable? I don't think so.
Well,
why is it?
I know
he's been gone for 10 years. Forget what he did in AEW, because other wrestling worlds don't exist in the WWE. It's just them. You can't take a guy that's been gone for 11 and a half years, because it's been 11 and a half years, or actually it might even be 12 years.
It'll be
and
10
put
years,
him in.
It'll be 10 years at Royal Rumble.
Okay.
That he's been gone. He left in 2014.
When's the Rumble? February?
January.
Okay. So he wins the Rumble. He goes on to fight Roman Reigns. That is not believable, in my opinion. How fans could get behind that and want to pay to see that doesn't fly for me. Just not my kind of wrestling.
Because it's a quickly thrown together dream match.
Nope, I would rather see him pull Stone Cold out of mothballs and go over on Stone Cold, because that's what the baby wants. Baby gets what baby wants. And then sunset him.
Morgan, it's like this is one of those moments, Morgan, I'm looking at you just because I'm like, we both have a friend who's a really good, really big fan of CM Punk. This is one of those moments where I was like, I wish we could phone a friend right now.
Wait, is this shout out to Blake?
Yes.
Shout out to Blake.
It's like God, I need to get a segment in here where it's like, Blake, come in here and argue Kevin about CM Punk.
Yeah, man, I just don't get it. But listen, I could talk and bitch about CM Punk for an hour. So, you know what, Morgan, it's your turn. What was a negative for professional wrestling for you in 2023?
A negative for professional wrestling 2023. Well, you mentioned the CM Punk thing. I mean, obviously, we didn't mention that, when he came back, they seem to have made the worst business decision in their career so far, and that is to start another show on the worst possible day and the worst possible time at the worst possible part of the season during competing with college football. And it's flopping, it's tanking, and, at the time, they were having to split the roster between two shows. It completely took the wind out of the sails for AEW for me. I think that was the beginning of the end for my interest in AEW. I mean, I still have interest, but I'm at a point in my viewership where I'm like watching the matches on double time speed, 2x speed, to see if there's anything interesting for me to talk about on the show, reading the highlights, and that's it. I'm not invested like I used to be. I was more invested in the promotion when they were at Daly's Place every single night, and it wasn't catered to one guy. Ever since they did that, I feel like they've failed to get back to what they were since they did that. Now, there's been some bright spots which we talked about, but that kind of upended everything. And then also since then, BTE went away and never came back, and now it was, quote unquote, I guess you could say a work, but it was sold, to the Dark Order, which I still haven't watched yet, but I hear it's pretty funny. But
it's snug.
Still, I would say that BTE was one of the reasons why I got interested, and then they also broadcast and promoted more of their dark matches, which I don't even know if they do anymore. They used to promote them, and it would make me interested to go have it on in the background during work, because I work from home. So just have it on in the background and, have a couple of matches in the support of those and see if there was anything interesting. So they've gone away, and a lot of it had to do because they were catering to that one guy.
Morgan, help me understand why you like BTE so much.
I just thought it was, to me, I thought it was kind of funny. I liked how they had different skits between the different wrestlers, and so and they had their own like little BTE belt competition. I thought that was kind of fun. So you kind of got a Netflix style behind the scenes of the promotion, and it made those wrestlers likable and more relatable throughout the week.
Yeah. Yep, it gave them a creative outlet to do something besides professional wrestling,
and some of it
on a weekly
sucked,
basis.
like Ryan Nemeth stuff. I hated all his stuff. But
I like the Ryan Nemeth stuff, except for the cream thing.
No, I
didn't
hated
get
all of his
that
stuff. But at least it was something like, you know what, they're giving the weirdo guy his spot. They're giving him a chance. He's weird. His things are weird. He thinks he's a great actor. He's not. He thinks he's a great storyteller. He's not. But they're giving him his spot.
He did what he wanted to do.
Right, yeah.
He meant to turn you off to watch him. So even though you weren't a fan, you watched it every week. So it's interesting because my wife says the same thing. She's like, "Where's BTE?" And I had to explain to her in storyline, they get repackaged, they're coming back as heels, and in the meantime, we're getting this BTDO, and we're getting some Colt Cabana and Brandon Cutler stuff in between. She's like, "Yeah, I used to like watching it, half hour, 45 minutes every week." She's like, "Why don't you watch it anymore?" I agree. I do miss BTE, and to that point, it was creative outlet for these guys to do something besides be professional wrestlers. In that vein, have you watched any of the Hey EWs?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it, and I need to give the host a chance, but on the outside, I struggle to give him a chance, and I know that's
okay.
I need to give him one, but
yeah.
He's not a wrestler himself, at least as far as I know. So
he is. He absolutely is.
Okay, well, that's as much as I know.
In fact, they have a great match from, I think it was 6 years ago. Him and MJF went about 45 minutes. It was very good. I was snug. But yeah, I totally agree. Spencer had something to say?
I was just jumping. There's like, hey, since we're talking about like the BT and stuff, this is the only opportunity I feel like I'll ever get to talk about this. But it's like, as far as that goes, it's like, seeing wrestlers trying to do something else is like, if you remember when we still had the WWE Network before we had the Peacock bullshit that we got now, it's like Edge and Christian did a variety show, and I'm never going to get another chance to ever talk about the fact that was actually really well done and fun.
Yes, I remember watching that at the gym. Something of awesomeness. What was it called?
Yeah, Edge and Christian's show show that reeks of awesomeness or something
there it
like
is.
that.
Yeah, it reeks of awesomeness.
It's like it was great in the sense of like most of the comedy was great, but also like they put in certain jokes that I couldn't help but laugh at that were just great inside jokes. Whether it be anything from Jeff Jarrett refusing to come onto the show unless we paid him $50,000, beforehand, and then after taking the show, he says, "I'm running off to Orlando to make an impact." All the way to saying like they wanted to reference where AJ Styles came from, so they put a picture of the tag team that was Test and Albert, if you get that reference, on the screen, all the way to Edge and Christian camping out, and they find out that they're on the Hardy compound, and they're sitting there like, and Matt's like coming in, there's like, you're on my lawn. And it's like, and Christian made the comment of, "This is not the first time you've trespassed on his property, Edge."
Nice. Yeah, Morgan, go back
wait a minute. I don't think he's talking about.
Yeah, you get that joke, don't you?
Ooh, I feel like I get it.
Yeah, there's a little Lita joke in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I liked about BTE was the fact how lonely a life they live traveling from airport to airport. The fact that they're spending Thanksgiving in Colorado's airport, or they're spending, Christmas Eve in LAX. I found that very interesting, and I think part of that it kind of hit home with me because in prior life I traveled quite a bit. But I digress. Spence, what's your number one bummer of 2023 professional wrestling?
It's like I was going to go with like 2023 CM Punk has been number one bummer. You know what? I'm going to do a callback to an actual real life bummer for me in professional wrestling. And that was, the double whammy we took back there of losing both it's like a hardcore legend like Terry Funk and one of the greatest should have, could have beens of Bray Wyatt in like what, a week span there and whatnot. It's like,
yeah, that's certainly sad. We lost somebody who's creative, innovative, and there was so much story to tell, and we're just never going to get that story. It's
like
certainly sad.
I hate this about Bray Wyatt, but it's like Bray Wyatt was like a constant of, he'd get on TV and like you'd see his debuts and, both as the Fiend, as, what he was this time around, or like the original, Wyatt family. And it's like, I am initially like super hyped for everything we're doing here. He'd do everything you could to get this thing over. And then somebody would take it in a direction that it's just like, we're going to find new and exciting ways to ruin this. And I always felt that it's like, man, if you could just get this guy completely, off the shackles of creativity and let him do his own thing, I really felt like it was always going to, like, he was going to go straight for the stratosphere.
We kind of saw that. I mean, we saw some strange matches with him. We saw the one with him and Randy Orton where it was all red and it was spinning and what have you. But where can you really take a character like that? Like, what is the payoff? It just gets weird to a point where you can't out-weird.
What was it, like WrestleMania 30 or something when he fought John Cena and he lost to John Cena there? And my argument was, it's like, I don't understand how they can't see they've got the next Undertaker. Like, Bray Wyatt was the guy that I could point to and say, that's the guy Undertaker passes the torch to, and he keeps that, that mystique character going. It's like this generation had the Undertaker, and this generation will have Bray Wyatt. And they just, for whatever reason, it's like, I saw greatness. I think the rest of us saw greatness, but at that particular time, Vince McMahon saw, I see a heel that can get my guys over.
Yeah, it's true. And what a waste, right? I mean, had we given him the push at the right time, who knows?
It's one of those, like, if everything had aligned right, we probably would have seen something greater than we already did. Not to say that Bray Wyatt is like in his brief, short time with the WWE, has a Hall of Fame career.
Yep. Rest in peace, Husky Harrison.
Yeah, that, and like, back onto the other ones, like we all know we lost something great with Terry Funk. Terry Funk's one of the greatest all-time legends of professional wrestling.
Yes, sir. Man, speaking of Terry
he should
Funk,
inspire you. He should inspire all of you to like have a conversation with somebody and end it with, your mom's a whore.
You egg-sucking dog.
Yeah.
Man, I saw Tommy Dreamer on TNA Saturday night. Oh, it looks like Tommy Dreamer ate Tommy Dreamer. He looks terrible.
Hey, it's another chance for me to reference the Edge and Christian show, because they used to make fun of him for that constantly.
Yeah, it's he's 53, I believe, and he looks all of 53. He exemplifies the dad bod, the ponytail with the bald spot. Poor Tommy, man. I like him. I always have. But damn, dude, it's time to change and work behind the scenes.
That was a rib and stuff on the Edge and Christian variety show, was that Christian and Edge fought in something or other. Christian lost a bet, and he had to actually rub grease all over Tommy Dreamer wearing a thong.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it was not a fun day for Christian.
Yeah, there's a reason why the days that Bully and Tommy host, it's called The Fat and the Furious. But I digress. Gentlemen, I am going to give you a multiple choice. And Morgan, you've been quiet, so I'm going to let you choose here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to give you 3 topics, of all of which, in my opinion, are downs. The women's division, Ring of Honor merger, match pace, or start and stop booking. What would you choose?
Wait, I'm going to need you to give me the question again.
Sure. Of these 4 topics, because these are all 4 downers for me.
4 downers?
Correct.
What
And
do
I'm
you
only
mean
going to speak to
downers?
one. All of these are thumbs down for 2023.
Okay, all right. Things you hated. Got it.
Correct. 2023 AEW Women's Division. 2023 Start and Stop Booking in AEW. 2023 Ring of Honor Acquisition and Merger. 2023 AEW Pace of Matches. of those four, what would you like me to speak to?
The start and stop booking.
Excellent choice. And I'm just going to throw out three names and then we can talk about it. Wardlow, Miro, Keith Lee, and here's a bonus. Take a shitta. How many times have we start and stopped on Wardlow? Now, in his current iteration, he's coming back as a monster heel. We believe he may be under a mask as part of this devil henchman. He was champ. He had the belt stolen, so they made him lose it on TV 2 nights later. He gained it again, only to lose it again. Go away, come back, get a new paint a coat, as they call it. What are they doing with Wardlow? And how can we ever get behind somebody that they do this with? Start and stop, start and stop. I don't care how many times you make him powerbomb somebody and actually stop the match because he supposedly can't continue. It's not getting me behind the guy. And it's too bad because I think I've got somebody in him. I mean, he's got the look. He has that in-ring ability. He's not the best, but he's good. He's somebody you could probably make a monster heel out of with a strong baby face. But how do I get behind him when you start and stopped him 3 times in 1 year? Take a shitta, as Morgan likes to call him. Take a shitta was on the precipice of being one of the biggest heels, and we just cooled him off.
He just vanished.
Did
Yeah,
he
like,
did he
why?
not get injured? Is he not injured? I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of. You probably do a quick Google search on that one, but I do not believe Takeshita is injured. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he fight less than a month ago?
He fought Jericho at a something or other pay-per-view. Was it New Japan he was at, or
It was within the last quarter for sure.
yeah, where he fought New Japan. I swear he went to New Japan and had a match with Jericho, and also took the L to Jericho.
Yeah, like what? Again, he was poised to be a super heel, and they just cooled him off. The whole Don Callis family, where have they been? Exactly. Exactly. You don't have to answer. It's rhetorical. My next one is Miro. My God, like talk about a waste of talent. If there's anyone that should go back to WWE and his contract is up, he's my number one choice. There's no reason for him to be under contract in AEW because they are not utilizing him at all. Every time they put him on TV, he's off TV again for a month. Like, why? You know, they're starting up this Lana angle, and Morgan, you brought it up last week. Why is it in WWE? They had a whole menage a trois thing, and they're doing that again in AEW. Great question, because they can't come up with any original programming, I'm assuming. Again, Miro, monster heel, monster face. He's over either way. Just utilize him.
Yeah, he's charismatic. He knows how to get it's like over. It's either a face or a heel. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's like they started up and they just have no idea what to do.
Exactly the same thing for Keith Lee. Like, do they not know how to utilize big men? Like, what, Wardlow, Miro, Keith Lee, these are all considered big guys. Do they not know what to do?
Well, it depends. If the guys in charge of writing this is like of the booking and stuff are guys like Omega, Danielson, and the Bucks. No, they don't.
Yep. You're right. Absolutely right. Good point. Absolutely good point, Spence. And again, to me, that kind of turns me off. Like, how do I get behind any of these big guys if it's a small guy company?
It kind of is a small guy company, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Morgan, I can see you making faces. I don't know if you're constipated or you're intrigued by the conversation, but what's the explanation for the stop booking with Tony Khan?
I'm just trying to find
Take a shot.
Shy Blues OnlyFans,
because it looks like he did have a match recently. It's not on his match guide on cagematch.net. His last match on that says no, actually it is. So December 6th was his last match. Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal versus him and Powerhouse Hobbs. I actually remember.
On what, Rampage?
That was like 2 weeks ago.
It was on Rampage, and it was a very crappy match, in my opinion. I didn't like it.
Holy shit. Yeah, holy shit. Like anybody was watching that.
Yep. And then before that, he did face Chris Jericho, Omega, and Ibushi, and Paul White in that street fight.
Yep.
and that was
Well, but-
before Thanksgiving. And
So
then
again, a big guy, considered a big guy. He's not the biggest of guys, but like they don't know how to book big guys.
two
He could have
matches in
been
2 months for him with AEW.
he could have been a monster foreign heel, which plus or minus, foreign heels typically do really well in the wrestling industry. Again, they missed it. So one of my downs for AEW 2023 is a start-stop booking overall. Not one person in particular. There's a half dozen.
I was like, we can go into that one a lot easier because the only one when you were asking us multiple choice, my first thing was like, yeah, we could talk. It's like I know you want to talk about the women's division, and like God knows I could rant about the whole thing. It was like you turned Ring of Honor into WWE's variant of ECW, and it's.
The interesting thing is though, I have 6 positives and 7 negatives. So overall, my score for AEW for the year would be 60%. And I'm a big fan.
Wow.
So,
and
all right,
I would argue though, it's like it's definitely been a down year for AEW, but I think I feel like 2024 could be big for both companies.
let's hope. Again, who wins? Us, the fans. Morgan, what's your negative for 2023?
I thought I already did one.
He did.
We're doing 2.
Oh, we're doing 2. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
We're doing 2.
You want a minute to think about it?
I do feel like that when it comes to, because I've watched mostly AEW, when it comes to something that I'm disappointed with most recently is, and you kind of touched on it earlier, but I brought up the start and stop booking on purpose because that is really I think probably one of my top ones. But I would say this thing with MJF is not putting their main event guys in the rotation of main event. Moxley's not in there. Omega's not in there. You've got MJF and Jay White, which we all felt like that they kind of botched that. You've got him and Adam Cole, and then he got hurt. And to me, Adam Cole, not on the level of Moxley and Omega.
Yeah, can we comment on that one real quick for you, Morgan? It's like, as far as negatives go, it's like, dude, AEW got hit bad this year with like injuries causing a lot of problems in that category. Like a lot of start and stop booking, because like, let's see, CM Punk got hurt, throughout. It's like he was hurt after Brawl Out. Bryan Danielson keeps coming in, got hurt. I'm pretty sure they had a game plan with Moxley as the international champion, and then he got hurt. Ray Phoenix hurt. Who else am I forgetting on this one that's been hurt this year?
Well, along those lines, Morgan, did you know that
Cole.
Kenny Omega was asked to be in the Continental Classic and he declined because he doesn't think he has that many matches in him for the rest of the year?
Which we talked about a couple of shows ago about how he's 42. His tires are getting worn down, and it's limited there. And that's unfortunate because, as I mentioned, my success for WWE would be watching them for the first time in a long time and seeing a Avengers group of guys. And AEW, I know, has what I think is their Avengers group of guys, and they're really not using them, not together, not separately, not against each other. They're just kind of spread out. And they're spread out with the younger talent, which I think hopefully in the long term will help build up those characters and those people. But, like I said, you've got Kenny Omega finally getting a win, by the way, against Ethan Page on Saturday. And then you've
good
got,
match.
Yeah, which actually I think was a good match. And then you have But Ethan Page and Kenny Omega was just kind of thrown in there out of nowhere. There was no backstory to that. It was just he called him out, and so they wrestled.
No, in his hometown.
And if he has limited wear left, then a random match on Collision is not where I want to see Kenny Omega. I'm sorry. I mean, treat him like you're putting him on the like you're putting Sting on the pedestal. I mean, really, like, let's get him in there in the marquee matches that are not as frequent but are out there. I want to see him with the little amount of time that he has left in the matches that matter the most and that are the most exciting. Not, he can train guys in the performance center, once he retires or something. I don't know. It just, to me, again, Moxley, Omega, I would even put Jericho in there still. I would put MJF in there. Edge, whatever he's doing right now. I think that they have a handful of guys that could be their ticket sellers, and they're just kind of sporadic around, not really using them to full force like I think they could be.
Give me a best of 7, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega. Make it go a year, and then sunset Kenny.
I think you got Will Ospreay there. I mean, Will Ospreay is over here on TNA going to fight Okada, So, I mean, it's just they've got to get their top of the top guys, at the top of the card and selling the tickets and bringing people in. I mean, that's my thing. As long as they're still kicking, they got to get them up top.
Yep. I agree. Kenny's still got a few matches in him, and I want to see him. So, Spence, bring us home. What's your down for 2023?
This might just be a down personally for me, but I weirdly thought long-term booking took a hit this year. In some cases, where like at the beginning of this year, like case in point, WWE. The beginning of this year, the Bloodline angle was incredibly hot. And then by the time we got to August, especially with the addition of Jimmy Uso turning on his brother Jay, it kind of lost a step. And more or less with the just complete inactivity of Roman Reigns being on television less, and, Jay Uso moving away from SmackDown to Raw with, as we pointed out before, taking Sami Zayn out of the equation. That whole storyline kind of began to really cool off at the second half of this year, and it just hasn't held up as well. Now, granted, we're going into WrestleMania season here in a little bit, and it might heat back up, and we might get better storylines and stuff like that. And I kind of felt the same way with AEW too, with the whole deal with Adam Cole and MJF, where it's like, as the longer the devil thing went on there for a while, and not knowing whether Adam Cole, is really hurt or not, it's now getting to a point where it's like, originally I was like, man, it's going to be great because he's going to be the devil. This is going to be this thing. And now it's like, do you really want Adam Cole to be the devil? Do you even care if he's the devil this time around? It just feels like, I don't know what it was, but it's like the momentum. Normally, long-term storytelling is great, but for whatever reason, in both WWE and AEW's case here, the second half, it just felt like the storytelling, like it just cooled off for some reason. So, like they just couldn't maintain the momentum.
Regarding WWE, it's hard to do long-term storytelling when your main character is part-time.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think one of the big things that has hurt the Bloodline story as of late is the fact that just Roman is so infrequently there. And I mean, I get it that they make it a big deal that when he is there and when he does show up, but the problem is he probably needs to be there more often than he is, just to keep, us on the edge of our seats here.
Yeah,
Jimmy Uso, Paul Heyman, and Solo Sikoa just can't carry it on their own. They need the tribal chief, and he's just not there anymore.
Right. Regarding the devil, I fully think we're going to get the payoff on December 30th. But to your point, we're waiting so long, and they haven't really done anything, in my opinion, to really pop me. The shit we got the other night with MJF being jumped out back and the guy, that was terrible. I thought they could have done a much better job with that. So yes, my interest in the Devil is waning, but it gives us something to talk about. But we need to pay that off December 30th. If it goes into the first of the year, I'm losing interest.
I'm with you. I think the last pay-per-view at the end of the year is the best place to really pay this thing off. I think that's what it was, is we were all expecting some sort of like major twist at Full Gear, and we got nothing.
I wasn't expecting that. I've been saying December 30th all along. Now, I will tell you that whatever we get on December 30th, it's going to carry us into 2024. And I think it's going to set up the 2024 angles going forward. So, you know what, guys? This was a lot of fun. This is something different, end of year in review, so to speak. I want to say, guys, we're like in the teens for shows. We're doing good. We're gaining numbers every week. I'm having a good time. You guys having a good time?
I'm
having a fantastic time.
We're almost at, I think this is 19 for us.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Nice.
Almost at 20. So
we're almost legal. Almost legal, boys.
Well, I mean, 18, depends on what kind of legality you're talking about.
Consent is consent.
Depends on if you're in Australia or not, I guess, if you're an NBA fan out there. Thanks for tuning in to another action-packed episode of And Still a Wrestling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed all the headlines and discussions this evening in the world of wrestling. Until next week, may your favorite superstar keep their belt, and may your super kick always be perfectly executed. Stay ringside, wrestling fans. This is And Still a Wrestling Podcast, the real undisputed champion.
Nick Wayne's mom, get the baby oil ready.